Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 24th of February and we are going to deal with three very important topics which are in news. The first topic is the NB8 grouping. N here stands for Nordic, B stands for Baltic. These are 8 countries. The 5 Nordic countries, Iceland, Denmark, Norway, Finland and Sweden. The 3 Baltic countries, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Collectively, they call themselves as Nordic Baltic 8, NB8. These 8 countries are here for the Raisina Dialogue, which is basically conducted by Government of India, Ministry of External Affairs and Observer Research Foundation. Now, India has deep connections with these countries. These are generally considered to be the developed countries of the world. And we are collaborating in multiple fronts like artificial intelligence, green energy, transition of the energy resources and such like. But yes, there is one divergent point, and that divergent point is the Russia-Ukraine war. These countries definitely support Ukraine in this cause, and India is largely considered to be neutral in this war. So that is the one divergent point. The second is the Gry Zone Warfare. Now, the Chief of Defence Staff, Mr. Anil Chauhan, speaking at the Raisina Dialogue, said that the Gry Zone Warfare is a new term which has been added in the warfare lingo. What is Gry Zone Warfare? It is simply a military activity that is below a certain threshold, and this military activity will invite responses from the other countries. If this military activity surpasses this threshold, then it will culminate or it will turn into a war. But these are those gray zone tactics, or gray zone warfare is those tactics which do not result into a war but definitely will invite response. Definitely they are seeded in a historical conflict. Now, next is surrogacy rules. Surrogacy is a practice whereby a woman bears and gives birth to a child, hands over that child to the intending couple after the birth of that child. Now, the new rule is that both the sperm and the egg can be donated in case the intending couples are not medically fit to donate these gametes. Earlier, the sperm had to come from the intending couple, the eggs could be donated. Before that, both the gametes, that is the sperm and the eggs, had to come from the intending couple, then only surrogacy would happen. So now both these sperm and these eggs can come from donors. So this is what the new rule is. So we will look into the details. The NB8 grouping. First of all, the Nordic Baltic 8 grouping. These 8 countries, the ministers from these 8 countries are here for the Raisina Dialogue, which is basically an event hosted by Observer Research Foundation, a New Delhi based think tank, as well as the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. So these 8 countries, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. The blue ones, that is Iceland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden and Finland, they are called as Nordic countries, and these 3 are called as Baltic countries. They have this grouping called as Nordic Baltic 8. These countries are generally developed. They have good, not good, but very good human development indicators. They have good innovation indicators. They have good, I would say, gender equality indicators. So in all the senses, they are the developed part of the world, and they have come here to attend this Raisina Dialogue. So this is what the members are, and what they have as a message in this Raisina Dialogue. We need to understand that as well. Now, in times of turmoil and conflict, so for these Nordic Baltic countries, turmoil and conflict, largely they are referring to the Russia-Ukraine war, which has completed 2 years. The conflict is also there in West Asia, Israel-Hamas, but their context was largely the Russia-Ukraine war. They said that during these times of turmoil and conflict, the world needs more trust, dialogue, and cooperation. Now, let us join forces to protect and defend peace and stability, to oppose aggression, to maintain a rules-based world order, and to strengthen a world economy based on free trade, sustainability, and long-term partnerships. This is what the message they are carrying, and there is nothing wrong in this message, I would say. Everyone would want this, each and every country. Now, significance of NB8, how they are significant. They are linked geographically and share deep historical, social, economic and cultural ties. So, we've seen their geographical positions, and there are cultural ties also, social ties also. Their advanced economies are outward looking, innovation driven, complementary and fully integrated into the world's largest single market area, that is the European Common Market under EU, that is. Taken together, the size of Nordic Baltic economies would qualify not only for the G20 but also the G10. Means they can be considered as top 10 economies if they 8 are considered as a bloc, as a group. These countries share a commitment to democracy and human rights. They are all champions of international order based on multilateralism and international law. So, this is what they are. Now, the India NB8 connection. What is the India NB8 connection? They pursue a very productive and deeply valued cooperation with India. And obviously, India is a key country in the present, I would say, global geopolitics equation. Fastest growing economy we are, the youngest country we are, the world's most populous country according to various estimates we are. And each and every country, especially the developed ones, they would want to collaborate with us. And so are these people. Now, these NB8 grouping for the very first time have come out of Europe to attend such a dialogue, and that is in India. Now, in today's newspaper, in the Hindu, they have written, the 8 ministers have collectively written one article on the editorial page, and this is what they claim. They also have long-term and ever closer ties with India and the Indo-Pacific region in common. What are the areas of cooperation? Innovation, because the innovation quotient of these countries is very high. Green transition, they are also known for using, I would say, renewable energy sources in a much effective way. Maritime security, health, intellectual property rights, new technologies which are being developed, space cooperation, artificial intelligence, student exchanges, and lastly, culture and tourism. So, tourism from India and tourism to India from these countries is rising, is on the rise. So, if you want to see Northern Lights, for which 2024 is an apt year, you can visit these countries where you will experience Northern Lights. Now, the NB8 on Russia-Ukraine war. This is one area where, we diverge. We are largely neutral, considered by many countries as pro-Russia, and these countries, NB8, they are in solidarity with Ukraine. This will be clearly reflected in their stand. Let's see. Today, the global agenda for progress is seriously hampered by Russia's illegal and full-scale war against Ukraine. This is what they claim. Russia is trying to destroy and dominate democratic neighboring country and alter borders using illegal force. It is an attack on international law and on the fundamental principles of territorial integrity and sovereignty of all states. Upholding these principles that are enshrined in the United Nations Charter, be it in Europe, the Indo-Pacific or elsewhere, the ensuring accountability for crimes committed is paramount, which Russia is not committed to. The war affects global food and energy security, as I've mentioned earlier as well, that this particular war has impacted the 3 F's: fertilizer, food and fuel. These 3 F's, basic commodities, their prices have gone up. Ukrainian ports, they have been blockaded by Russia, which did not allow Ukraine to export food grains to the world. Many countries were dependent upon those Ukrainian food grains, especially wheat. So all these have impacted the world. Now they are also endorsing the peace formula. This peace formula was proposed by the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. And these NB8 countries are endorsing that peace formula, that peace should be there. So, Volodymyr Zelensky has presented an ambitious peace formula for comprehensive, just and lasting peace. This was presented in 2023. The peace formula, which has received broad international support, includes issues of global concerns such as energy and food security, environmental consequences, and justice. NB8 fully supports Ukraine's diplomatic efforts for peace and welcome the increasing number of countries and international organizations in support of this peace formula. How they are saying this? They are saying this because in the recent World Economic Forum's Davos summit, 83 countries or 83 participants were there where this peace formula was being discussed, and they were all in support of this peace formula. Now, as a task for the viewers who are watching this video, do find out on the internet that what is India's stand on this peace formula. This will bring completeness to your understanding with respect to this peace formula. Now, next is the Gray Zone Warfare. Now, as you can see this image over here, white zone is peace, Gray zone is basically those actions which will definitely not lead to war. War is that if you cross this threshold, this is the threshold. If any military action crosses this threshold, it will culminate into war. But all those actions which are over here will not culminate into war, but definitely they will invite response. This is what Gray Zone Warfare is. And this was being discussed in reference to China, because China has done in South China Sea, in LAC, India's northern borders, all these things have been done by China. They are, adopting this Gray Zone Warfare. They know that their activities or those military actions will not lead to a war, but definitely a response from the countries which are stakeholders in those regions. Like in South China Sea, many countries like Philippines, Japan, and all Southeast Asian countries, they are stakeholders. In India, along the LAC, India is the stakeholder. So definitely there will be a response. Now, what is Gray Zone Warfare? Gray Zone Warfare is basically kind of a military action below a particular threshold that would invite a response. It would not lead to a war, because if we, cross this threshold, then it will lead to a war. Now, what was the reference point of mentioning this thing that Gray Zone is becoming more and more popular these days, or Gray Zone Warfare is becoming more and more popular? This was mentioned by Mr. Anil Chauhan, our, Chief of Defence Staff. He said that this is in reference to China's actions, both along the line of actual control as well as the South China Sea. Now, General Chauhan said in Gray Zone Warfare, the dividend of the action may be available only after a long time. The dividends are not reaped immediately. So it takes a long time. And he also said that these Gray Zone Warfare, to start this, you will have to have a dispute. The origin of these kind of warfares, Gray Zone Warfares, lies in the historical disputes. Obviously, the military action, for example, China is in context over here. China is undertaking some military actions in LAC, along the line of actual control, or in South China Sea. So there is some history connected to it. So first we will see this history. So in South China Sea, basically there is this 9 dash line, 1 dash, 2 dash, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now what China says that the territories in this, within this 9 dash line, they all belong to China. like these Paracel Islands or Spratly Islands, they all belong to China. Because in the 1940s, a Chinese geographer drew these 9 dash lines on the map and claimed that the entire South China Sea, according to this 9 dash line, 90% of the South China Sea is controlled by China, according to this 9 dash line. But yes, there are certain disputes like these Paracel Islands, Vietnam lays claim over it. These Spratly Islands, Malaysia lays claim over it. So, like this, it is there. Indonesia lays claim over it. Philippines is also there in this particular conflict. So, it is like this. So, history is attached. That geographer of 1940s drawing this line. Now, when I talk about dispute along the LAC, now this particular line, this particular region is called as Aksai Chin. Now, there was an agreement in 1865 when the Britishers were here, between the Britishers and the Chinese, which drew this line, and this line was called as the Johnson line. This Johnson line, drawn in the year 1865, was considered as the border. So, according to the Johnson line, India is claiming over Aksai Chin. Aksai Chin is part of India. According to another agreement in 1893, I would say 28 years down the line, this particular line, named as the McDonald line, was considered as the international boundary between India and China. Now, according to McDonald line, Aksai Chin is part of China. So, it is but obvious that China considers the McDonald line as the boundary between India and China. India considers the Johnson line as the boundary between India and China, and that is why this Aksai Chin, which according to India is a territory which is claimed by India but administered by China. So, this is the historical dispute over here. It is rooted in this historical dispute, and it is this region where Gry Zone Warfare is happening. Like, for example, in 2020, government of India was building a road from Darbuk to Daurat Beg Oldi over here, and the Chinese started claiming that you are constructing this road in our territory. Actually, the Chinese, how they are doing is, they are expanding this LAC inwards. They are saying that this road is being constructed in China, not in your territory. Then, when I come to Arunachal Pradesh, this is known as McMahon line. So, in 1913, there was an agreement done between government of India, means British India, and the Tibetan government. This actually was part of Tibet, South Tibet, but this, according to the McMahon line, Sir Henry McMahon was the foreign secretary at that time. So, this agreement was done and this line was drawn as the boundary, and this Arunachal Pradesh of today was brought into India. The Chinese keep on claiming this entire Arunachal Pradesh. So, this Gry Zone Warfare happens over here also, rooted in history. And last piece of news is the Surrogacy Rules. Now, there are new rules which have been issued by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is hearing a case on surrogacy. We covered it a few days ago. Basically, on 14th of February, we covered it. Surrogacy is a practice whereby a female bears and gives birth to a child. After giving birth to a child, hands over that child to the intending couple. Now, assistive reproductive technology is used to plant that embryo in the surrogate mother. Now, how that embryo is created? Embryo can be created by the intending couples, father, mother, father's sperm, mother's egg, an embryo is created. Now, this embryo is planted in a surrogate mother. She will give birth to a child and hand over that child to the intending couple. Now, according to the 2022 rules, surrogacy rules, this gamete or this embryo had to be formed by the gametes received from the intending couple, means father's sperm and mother's eggs. And then this could be planted in the surrogate mother and child born out of it can be handed over back to them. In March 2023, that is last year, there were some changes in the rules. They said that fathers have to donate the sperm compulsorily and mothers, this egg can be donated as well. 2023, egg can be donated if the mother is not medically fit. But the sperm has to come from the father. This was the 2023 rules. Now the Supreme Court has testified that the sperm can also be donated. So with a donated sperm and a donated egg, this embryo will be formed, planted in the surrogate, and the child will be handed over back to the intending couple. This is what the ruling or the new rules are. The Union government has modified the Surrogacy Regulation Rules 2022 and notified that both gametes need not come from a married couple. Gametes means sperms and eggs, need not come from a married couple in case they are certified as suffering from a medical condition. This married couple is basically the intending couple who are wanting a child via surrogacy. Wasn't it allowed earlier? Now this donated eggs, prior to the March 2023 notification, it was not allowed at all. That had to come from the intending couple, both the gametes. In March 2023, use of donor eggs was allowed but not sperm. Prior to March 2023, use of both eggs and sperm from the intending couple had to come. After the notification of 2023 rules, the donor eggs could come but the sperm should be from the father. Now, both sperm and eggs can be donated according to these new rules. Now, what about single women? Now, single women who are divorced or who are widowed, they are allowed to have children via surrogacy. Not a single woman who is never married, she is not allowed to have children via surrogacy. And this is what the case is there in Supreme Court, where an unmarried single woman has filed a case and stating that why do not I have the rights to have children via surrogacy. So what were the rules for them, or what are the rules for them? The single woman, widow or divorced, undergoing surrogacy must use self eggs and donor sperm. Obviously, they have to use their eggs. Means, let's suppose this is a single woman and she wants to have a child through surrogacy, so she will identify first a surrogate mother who will bear this child. She will have to take sperm from donation. So the eggs, this donated sperm, embryo will be formed, will be placed in the surrogate mother, and the surrogate mother will hand over the child to this single woman. This single woman should be divorced or a widow. This is what it is there. So surrogacy, what is surrogacy? This is the intending couple, this is the surrogate mother. She will hand over the child to the intending couple after giving birth to that child. How surrogacy happens? Eggs from the intended parent or donor eggs, sperm from the intended parent or donor sperm. This is now allowed because both can be donated, and this is what the new rule is. An embryo is created via in vitro fertilization. This embryo is transferred to the surrogate mother and the journey of surrogate mothers begins. The pregnancy journey of the surrogate mother begins. Once the surrogate mother gives birth to the child, this child has to be handed over to the parents. This is how surrogacy happens. And with this, we've come to an end of today's session. I will be meeting you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. Keep studying, keep reading, keep writing, and most importantly, keep revising. Namaste. Jai Hind.